Ave Satanis. Welcome to Sanctuary Satanica. I am the daughter of Lilith. Today, I'm finally trying to make this video once again, talking about the Qlipha Gamaliel. And this is the process of my Qliphothic initiation, and I am sharing just some UPG that I'm finding there, unverified personal notice, if you don't know what UPG stands for. Anyway, so this one's weird, y'all. I just bear with me. I've tried so many times to make this video, and that's why it's taken so fucking long for me to put it up, and I just can't be fucked to edit it. So this is the last time. This is the last time. If it's a fucking mess, it's a fucking mess. All right. So for context, you have to understand, those of you who don't know me, I have been working with Lilith, who rules Gamaliel, for it's about 14 years now. And I've been devoted to her for about 6 or 7. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at when I made my pact with her. I don't know. But anyways, the reason I mentioned that is when I first met her, there was scenery like this, and I was interested to find that when I meditated upon the sigil of this qlipha, I found myself there again. Although not so surprised, so there was a few key differences. Also, for context, anyone wondering, I am working through my Qliphothic initiation through the book by Alcinoth Mason called Qliphothic Meditations. That book has the framework of every single time you work through the qlipha, you are doing the opening ritual, the invocation of the ruling spirit of that qlipha. Then you're doing the path working she has written in the book. Then you're doing dream work, and then you're closing the qlipha with a personalized ritual. I have done all those things, but I tend to, before I get into the path working she has written, I tend to kind of combine this step with the invocation. Is I meditate upon the sigil that she has provided for that qlipha, and I just kind of suss it out for myself first, because personally, as I've been practicing witchcraft for like a fuck long time, I like to kind of go in blind and see how much stuff correlates to other people's gnosis. So there are some pretty major differences, but it was interesting how I read over her path working, all the things that did kind of correlate or make sense. They were different, but like my experience did make sense, and I did, of course, go through that path working as well, but I'm not going to reiterate that because that would just be plagiarizing her book, so I'm not going to do that. This is the experience that is purely mine, so we're sharing that today. Before I moved on from Nehemeth, or rather I had finished Nehemeth and I was getting ready to enter Gamaliel, I found myself like really hesitating and putting it off. That was a weird thing. I was really eager to get there, and my spirits were very eager for me to get there, but like I was having this weird inertia, a little different than my usual ADHD shenanigans, where I was just like, why is this so hard for me to enter Gamaliel? What am I afraid of finding there? So this scene is kind of what I remember from, well, okay, I'm looking at my notes here. These notes were not written down immediately afterwards. I actually had made audio notes first and on my phone, and like the way I remembered things was not linear, so I had to like listen to that shit several times to like chronologically put it together into anything that would make sense reading it, so that I wouldn't have to like retroactively be like, oh yeah, that part happened. So I'm desperately trying to tell this chronologically. So when I meet Lilith, or when I first met Lilith, I would be sinking into like darkness and then surface up into this dark red sea under a blood red moon, and she'd be waiting for me on the shores. In this situation, I found myself drowning in darkness and expecting to like surface up, but there was something pulling me down. And it's interesting how like things correlate, you know, in the mundane world, or the day side with the night side, or the astral or spiritual world, whatever. Because it was like, it very much was like illustrating this weird hesitation I had, this like thing pulling me down. But I, of course, like swam up anyway. I reached the shore. I kicked that fucking thing off of me. I don't fully understand what it was. I got a glimpse at it. It looked like a figure covered in tar. It was very weird. Would not be surprised if that surfaces again and is something really fucking terrifying. But for now, I was just gonna move on to like what I needed to do, because I had put it off long enough. Or it could just be nothing, you know what I mean? Like, it could just be something in the astral fucking with me. That shit just happens sometimes. So anyway, I noticed this in this instance, which I hadn't been in this place since like at least 10 years ago. I noticed the moon was in a different phase. It was a crescent moon. I believe it was a waning moon. And Lilith was there waiting for me, of course. And this time I'm used to seeing her either like naked in sort of a half beast, half woman form, usually like her top half being like a woman and her bottom half being like a beast or a snake. Scantily clad or naked, and in this case she was more classically human looking, at least. Well, she was more formally dressed, I'll put it that way. She was wearing a very ornate gown covered in beautiful black glittering gems, and she was presenting herself to me with horns. She doesn't often do that with me, but in this case she was, and her hair was out as usual, and on these horns was like a crown specifically designed for them, and beautiful black gems kind of falling into her long blood red hair. Very, very pretty as always, but very ornate for her, very formal. I was not used to seeing her like this. And so of course she greeted me, and again, when I had first gone to this place all those years ago, before I ever did like Qliphothic work, I remember this like fortress where she would take me off the shore, and like that wasn't too far away from the shore at all, and she would like teach me magic there. That's where I learned a lot of my magic from her, was in that fortress using her cauldron there. In this case, we walked by that fortress and we went deeper inland, and she led me to what I felt was like her garden, and I'm putting like quotes around that garden for a reason. And it's interesting too, because like this garden seems to be like almost like a blasphemous reflection of the Garden of Eden in some ways, but like she's leading me to this garden, and I remember like walking through the gates, and I don't remember a singular plant. I know there were plants there. I don't remember a singular plant, and the reason being was there were thousands upon thousands of like mostly insects and arachnids, like scorpions, spiders, beetles. I think there were some ants, but like, and then there were like rats and snakes and mice and just all kinds of critters, right? Like all kinds of creatures, things that are considered vermin, the obscene ones, if you will. And I got the sense that this garden was like a little safe place for them. It was a place for them to just be creatures, just to exist. And so, you know, the few plants that were there were very rotted and eaten out, and kind of decrepit and dying. But these creatures were thriving there. These creatures were doing well, and it was kind of like a little haven for them. And if you know anything about me, you know why that's significant, but I won't dwell on that now. While we were there, she and I began to dance. This is not atypical for my interactions with Lilith. We communicate quite a bit through dance, and the way that we dance is very similar. The way that we dance together is very similar to Urakshaki, which in the West is better known as belly dance. Um, and but it's very much its own, like, I can't really even pinpoint it to a specific style of Rakshaki. Like, I wouldn't say it's Egyptian or Turkish or anything, but like it's just very serpentine is what I mean. Very serpentine movements, and the way that that manifests on like a human body is it looks a lot like belly dance. And so we're doing that together, and the dance is going on for quite a while, like longer than I'm used to. And it's important to know that like when I'm dancing on the astral with her, my body is often moving in the physical world, and whether I'm aware of it or not. And so like I was even feeling like a little bit of physical exhaustion, not just mental exhaustion. And I noticed that her body was elongating, and I wasn't too surprised because I was like, oh, she's probably like transforming into like her snake form. But like this is where my memory got fuzzy, and I actually had to like clarify it later with her about what exactly happened. But she kind of told me without me even, it's like I was about to ask her, and she just like gave me the memory back. Is kind of what happened. But she had transformed into, the best way to describe her form was a dragon. I was expecting a snake, but she was a dragon, and she had swallowed me. And in the process of her swallowing me, I was, of course, like it was like being in the void again. You're like in darkness, and I was there, and I was kind of like, okay, I've been swallowed. Don't know why she did that to me. And I'm just trying to like go along for the ride. And then I calmed down. I just let the void, take me, I suppose. And then I noticed that like the darkness was becoming very tangible and was like closing in around me, and my body was like conforming into like a fetal position. And I was like, what the fuck? Okay, what's going on? And I'm going through like some kind of rebirth or something. And then it became like unbearable, like this like very tight, close, it became claustrophobic is what I mean. And so I started to push against it, and when I did, like I noticed like it was hard, so I had to push harder, and then parts of it would crack, and I was like, oh, okay. And I just like kept pushing until like I hatched out as a little baby dragon. And Lilith dragon, seeing me, like I remember she just like looked at me with this like look. I'm not the best at reading draconic expressions, but like this look kind of like, all right, you ready? Let's go. And so like she just takes off like in flight away from me. So I'm like, oh shit, I have to follow her because like, all right. And I was like flying, and I'm a baby. Like my wings are smaller. Like I've never flown before. And so I'm just like trying to keep up. I'm keeping up. And we were flying to the top of this mountain, and there on that mountain we continued the dance, so I didn't really get a moment's rest. And that dance now was involving, breathing fire and like, or energy, whatever you want to call it, but like, it's dragons, we'll call it fire. And through these dances and this fire breathing, which I had to participate in, again, no time to doubt whether or not I'm capable of breathing fire. I'm a little baby dragon. I'm just gonna act on my instincts and shit. So like, breathing fire together, opening this portal above us, and this like ring forms around us that is like pouring out a shit ton of snakes that are like, I imagine with like the sheer number of them, they were just like kind of falling off the mountain. around us, but like none of them were really touching us. And we were continuing this dance, and I was kind of just like very aware of what the snake means to me. Snake means a lot of things to me, even before I ever like really worked with Lilith. The snake was significant, and has only increased in significance to me. So like, and then snakes, you know, being inevitably connected to dragons in many ways. So we were continuously dancing, and I noticed that we were like changing back into like our humanoid forms again. And this is where we kind of like stayed, and she had we just had a conversation that was very much about some personal stuff, and I won't like delve into all of that. But this whole like the theme, you know anything about me, and I often trauma dump, so like it's not exactly a secret, but I'm trying not to dwell on it anymore. It's like, if you know anything about me, you know my issues, my mommy issues, and that was kind of being illustrated in a certain way or communicated to me, or things about it were being communicated to me through that entire sequence, and then definitely being like discussed in the conversation that Mother Lilith and I were having. And it's just also kind of funny, like I don't call Lilith mother because it's like popular, other people do that. I call her mother, and I've been calling her mother in a like she and I understand there's a bit of irony in that title, especially regarding like my story and like how her story and mine connect. We understand the irony of that, but it's okay. Anyways, we were discussing my mommy issues a little bit. Outside of this particular journey in the rest of my work in Gamaliel, I found myself reflecting on several things. I found myself reflecting on my dreams, a lot of my subconscious feelings, a lot of my anxiety, a lot of my sexuality, my magic, my reasons for practicing magic, my reasons for like continuing to practice magic, the reasons for my magic changing over the years, lots of those things. A lot of, whenever my sexuality comes up, inevitably, so does my gender, as a non-conforming woman, as a bisexual woman, like these things come up. So like a lot of, you know, if you're queer at all, then when sexuality comes up, so does gender to some extent, I think. So a lot of those questions were raised and explored, and a lot of stuff was starting to hit on the day side in ways that really did impact me and made me kind of really wait before I started working in Samael. A lot of my dreams, I would wake up with this like sense of urgency. I remember, like I would wake up with a sense of like anxious, I need to do something, and it was coming from this like sense of lack that I had been, this feeling of lack, this lack mentality that I had been like raised with, that was embedded in my subconscious. So yay, more mommy issues. I even wrote it in here. Hooray for more mommy issues. Oh yeah, it was just highlighting a lot of the paranoia that I feel as a woman, that I often like repress or ignore. A lot of my intuition that I have ignored, and also distinguishing between trauma and intuition. I think that was an important distinction that Lilith and I were exploring in this qlipha. My personalized ritual to close this qlipha was a lot of fun. I know I didn't talk too much about my personalized ritual in Nehemeth, I don't think, but I'm probably not going to talk too much about it here either, for this qlipha, but I had a lot of fun with it. I remember It was extremely cathartic. Lots of emotions kind of came to the surface, but it felt very good. It felt very resolute in what it needed to do. And I found myself very eager to go into Samael. I was like very excited, and I am still very excited to do so. So I've already begun that work, but I'm nowhere near ready to make a video about it. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about some crazy shit that goes on in my head when I'm sitting at my altar. Isn't that fun? If you've enjoyed this, I would love for likes or comments or stuff. If you're new here and you are subscribing, I highly recommend clicking the bell, because I am notoriously inconsistent with how I post. So if you want to know when I put up videos, that is a good way to know. And I will not be someone who spams you, at least until I become consistent, and then you may want to turn the bell off. But until then, you get notifications if I go live, you get notifications if I put up a video like this. So I hope this is interesting. If anyone else is going through their own Qliphothic journey, feel free to share in the comments. It's wild, so we're getting there. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, for supporting this channel. I'm offering readings again, and I just wanted to note that if anyone ever messages you saying they're me and they're trying to, that Satan or someone told you that they're going to give you a reading, it's not me. And I tend to message with voice messages on Instagram because I really hate typing. So if they're not sending you any voice messages, it's also probably not me. Not that I am popular enough to be mimicked by spam accounts, but I noticed that was just happening to a lot of people, so I just wanted everyone to know ahead of time, so that nobody gets scammed. But if you want to know more about that, my Instagram will be linked in the link tree somewhere in the description of this video or my channel, and you can DM me there and ask questions and whatever. So my rates are there under the highlight called services. So anyways, thank you for the support. Appreciate it. Satanic blessings. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye now.